What's good, YouTube? It's Rico here, and I've got a deck profile for a deck that I can only best abbreviate as DracoPal Magicians, or like DPM, or something like that. So it's Draco Slayer Performance Pal Magician, and this is obviously going to be for the adjusted list that was announced yesterday. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the past day or don't follow the competitive TCG, Konami announced yesterday that due to the overwhelming power of the Performance Pal deck, or PePe, and that it was pretty much tier 0. They created a new list that does not affect like lower level play or just like casual play with friends, but it is going to be used for anything that's a regional or higher, and locals can use it at their discretion also. And it's pretty much it's a way for them to make a new ban list without actually updating the ban list yet, because they said they're not planning on doing that for another month or two. And pretty much all it does is that it hard nerfs PePe like ridiculous amounts. It banned Plush Fire, Damage Juggler, and Ptolemaeus, which are all hits that already happened in the OCG, and it took it even further by limiting Luster Pendulum, Skullcrobat Joker, and Monkey Board. So the deck got savaged. My first impression, my roommate's first impression, I'm pretty sure the first impressions of a lot of people who played PePe were, holy shit, this deck is fucking dead. That's what I thought. And I was originally just be like, yeah, this deck's dead. There's no way I can save it. I'm just going to go to Monarch or Odd Eyes Magician or Atlantean. And then I played around with it a little more, and I was like, you know what, there might be something here. And then, like, just playing even more with it, I still think this might be the best deck in the game. Like, it's not going to be an overwhelmingly best deck. Like, it's not tier 0. I still think it's tier 1 at the worst. And it might not be the best deck. I think it's tier 1. It's a bit closer to like Monarch and Cosmo now. So yeah, the deck's still got a lot of power to it. It's got a lot of combos and plays. It's not that inconsistent. I think this is a stronger deck than what we had before Breakers of Shadow. And so yeah, I still think there's a lot of potential to it. And yeah, so for everybody who thinks it's dead, it's not. It's just a lot different now. It's not like wombo combo. It's not as spammy or lockdowny. It's just a consistent, versatile pendulum deck. So yeah, and I think that makes it the best deck in the game. So yeah, let's get into it. And this is a rough draft. Like, I made this last night and tweaked it a little bit today, and this was also in the middle of like all this Super Smash Bros. DLC, which has also been occupying my time. So I haven't tested this that much. I actually don't know when I'm gonna break this out into like a tournament, because the ARG States happening next weekend is good. From what I've heard, is still using the advanced format list, so it's not going to use the adjusted list, which means PePe will be at full power. So obviously I'm going to use that, but. Yeah, so I don't know when I'm going to use this. The first time I use this might actually be ARG Richmond in the beginning of March. So figure it out as it goes. But I just wanted to play around with this idea. So the first part of it is the Draco Slayer engine. And that is still a 3-2-1 ratio, except it's reversed. It's 3 Master Pendulum, 2 Vector Pendulum, and 1 Luster Pendulum. So obviously Luster Pendulum got limited. And so to fill the missing Draco Slayers, one of the things I did was just up the Master Pendulum count to 3, and the part of the reason was that it makes Draco Face Off live even if you draw Luster Pendulum, and it still lets you run 3 Draco Face Off to get to Luster Pendulum, but it also makes Ignister more live. But mainly, a lot of things that 3 Master Pendulum does is that it makes it easier for you to get to Dinoster, which is a very important card now, because you want to set up Dinoster so you can protect your scales while also penduluming back all the materials. And he's really strong as a foot soldier. Like, he's 1950. You can do a lot of things with him. Exceeds material, fusion material, stuff like that. And he's level 4. But the big thing is that because he's a normal monster, you can summon him with Rescue Rabbit, which I run 1 of because it's limited, obviously. So Rescue Rabbit's really nice because you can either normal summon it to bring out 2 Master Pendulums, and then that's a free Dinoster, and then you can continue making plays with those 2 Dinosters and whatever other Pendulums you have. You can also pendulum summon it and do the same thing, and just after you make a play. So I think there's a lot of power behind Rescue Rabbit. It sucks that it's limited, but it's not a major focus. It just helps powering your deck. I was really running Vector and Dragon Pulse Magician, which I'm getting to next, at 3 also to help facilitate Rescue Rabbit, but most of the time, if you activate Rescue Rabbit, you're probably going to grab Master Pendulum, because he's the one you can do the most with, because Vector and Dragon Pulse, you can make a rank 4, or you can let them die. Master Pendulum, you can at least fuse into Dinoster. So, and because there's only one Rescue Rabbit, you don't really need to run 3 of any other normal monster, because you're usually going to go for Master Pendulum. So yeah, that's the Draco Slayer portion of the deck. The Magician engine is the standard like non-odd-eyes Magician like cards, which would be 1 Dragon Pit, 2 Dragon Pulse, and 3 Wisdom Eye Magician. This is the same ratio as pre-Bosch, where Wisdom Eye is the best one, and then Dragon Pulse is like your low scale. And this just facilitates Pendulum Call. I was really gonna try 3 Wisdom Eye and 3 Dragon Pulse with no Dragon Pit, because what makes Wisdom Eye important is that it's a high scale that can also become a low scale, and like you don't really need a scale 8 in the deck. But I decided to go back to the 3-2-1 ratio, because Dragon Pit at least enables Wisdom Eye to be a high scale and a level 4 monster that you can Pendulum Summon. So I still think it's important to play the 1 Dragon Pit. Like, you never want to draw it, but it's nice to have in the deck because it facilitates Wisdom Eye's Pendulum effect if you need a high scale. Like, if you don't need a low scale and you want to activate Wisdom Eye, you can just go into Dragon Pit, which I think is important. So I think 3-2-1 is fine. Also, 3 Dragon Pulse was way too much. Like, it was really cloggy, and that's part of why I cut Dragon Pulse and Vector to 2, even though I run Rescue Rabbit. So that's the Magicians, and then the Performapals, because the Mages are completely useless now, because without Damage Juggler and without Plush Fire, there's no point in using Mirror Conductor, Hat Tricker, or Trick Clown, because they're all just kind of bad without the utility of the deck. So the last part's the Performapals. Well, the last main engine, at least. There's still other cards with your 3 Pendulum Sorcerer. This guy's still at 3. This guy is still good. This guy got better because they errated him to work by destroying any card, which is how he works in the OCG. So I can pop dead face downs and get the searches with him, which is how he was intended to work. So I'm kind of glad they fixed that. And then 1 Monkey Board because it's limited, 1 Skulkerbat, and 1 Silverclaw. This is my high scale of choice instead of Get Turtle or Lizard Draw. And the reason Get Turtle and Lizard Draw were optimal before was because you can use them with Monkey Board. Like, they were good high scales to combine with Monkey Board, and then you're going to pop them away with Pendulum Sorcerer. So, like, you wanted the extra draw power of Lizard Draw and Monkey Board because you wanted to, like, make Monkey Board live, but also, like, make use out of the scales, and you were likely going to pop them. Silverclaw, I think, is better in this situation now because you're not in a situation where you need low scales for Monkey Board because you're only going to do it once. So you Monkey Board, and like Monkey Board's not even a focus anymore. But it's just you Monkey Board into Silverclaw, you clear your scales, and then Silverclaw has more prolonged use. Like the 1 extra draw you would get from Lizard Draw or Get Turtle isn't really worth it in my opinion. I can still see an argument for Lizard Draw because it's searchable by King of the Feral Imps, but I like Silverclaw more due to the fact that it's a level 4 dark monster. So, yeah. I can see this being Lizard Draw, but I kind of like Silverclaw over right now. I don't know. Like I said, this is a preliminary build. I might end up going back to Silverclaw. And those are the Pendulum Performages. I'll throw in 2 Performapal second donkeys. This guy is great. He's kind of a pseudo Skulkerbat Joker that works on normal or special summon, so you can Pendulum Summon and get the search. He only adds to hand if you have 2 scales, though, so otherwise he's a Foolish Burial for Performapal, but effectively he's just a weaker version of Skulkerbats, which kind of fills the void of the Skulkerbat being limited. He can only search a Performapal, though, so he can't do what Skulkerbat does in searching Wisdom Eye. But other than that, he's still a pretty good card. I've been liking him. I don't want to run 3 of them because I feel like that'd be cloggy, but 2 seems to work out pretty well. And then this is another engine that I guess is kind of a Performapal engine, but it's more just a dark engine that people have been talking about. It's 2 Armageddon Knight, 1 Blackwing Zephyr the Elite, and 1 Performapal Hell Princess, or Hell Princess, something like that. And pretty much this just helps facilitate more rank 4 plays, and they're all dark, so you can make Evil Swarm Nightmare with it. So pretty much like Armageddon Knight, you can normal or Pendulum summon him, he'll ditch Zephyr the Elite, which will bounce and give you a dark rank 4, and you can bounce a scale to reuse it, so like you can bounce Monkey Board and get the search again, though I don't know if I would do that with only 1 high scale Performapal to work with them. And the second Armageddon Knight could send like Vector Pendulum to the graveyard in order to like facilitate Instant Fusion and Mass Chameleon, which is the last monster in the deck, by the way. It's Mass Chameleon. And so that's what these guys are for. Hell Princess is another warrior, so you can search it with Rhoda, so you don't always have to search Armageddon Knight. And her effect is that if she's in your hand and you normally special summon or perform a Pel, she can special summon herself. So if you have like a Skulkerbat in your hand, or if you search her and Skulkerbat with Pendulum Sorcerer, that's just another rank 4 on top of a search. So it's the main utility is that she's a dark warrior that you can search with Rhoda, but she also just facilitates more rank 4s. So I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this engine. I think there's merit to it, but other times it feels kind of underwhelming. The cards I had in the places of these, if I were to decide to cut this, would be 3 up starting the Soul Charge. I don't know how I feel about Soul Charge. It seems really powerful, but I don't like the idea of giving up a battle phase. So I'm going to try out this engine more. I like the idea behind it. And 1 Mass Chameleon, because with only 1 Luster Pendulum, you want to run more ways to get to Ignister as soon as you can. I was actually considering playing this in full power PePe, like even before the adjusted list, just because the person who gets to Ignister faster is probably in better control of their resources because they don't have to Exceed Summon, and Mass Chameleon kind of helps with that. So I like the 1 Mass Chameleon. And that's all the monsters. I think it's 26, because there's 13 spells in 1 trap. So, yeah. And it's a 40-card deck. So, spells, 3 Wavering Eyes. This card's even stupider now, because there's no damage juggler to stop it. So now, playing around Wavering Eyes is even more important, because you can't just, like, hope to draw damage juggler. Now you have to, like, either hope to draw Wavering Eyes, or you need to get Dinosaur on the board, or you need to clear your scales. So, even though this card's retarded as all hell, and it should probably be banned, the fact that it's around while damage juggler isn't, kind of just like adds another element of depth to the game. Where it's like you have to play around Wavering Eyes constantly while also doing your plays, otherwise you're going to get blown out because you don't have damage juggler to protect you anymore. I actually don't know if I want to main this though, because it depends on how the deck spread goes. Like if like a pendulum still proved to be like one of the most dominating forces in the game, or like one of the major forces, I'd probably still main this. But if Monarch and Cosmos prove to have equal footing, it'd probably be better to main Twin Twister, like 2 Twin Twister, 1 Raigeki. It really just depends on how it all pans out. The problem with Wavering Eyes is that if you hit Monarchs and they hit Domain, you really don't have an out to it game 1. It comes down to, are you worth giving up that game 1 just to have a stronger mirror match? That remains to be seen. If I were to side these instead, I would put in 2 Twin Twister and Raigeki, which is what I was trying out. Because Raigeki and Twin Twister both out Domain. And I don't think I'd want to run 3 Twin Twister without the Perform Mages to be reliable discard fodder. So, yeah. And Raigeki is also like generally useful. Like it's also good against Cosmo, and it's decent in the mirror. So it's either going to be 3 Wavering Eyes or 2 Twin Twister, 1 Raigeki. I haven't figured it out yet. 3 Draco Face Off for the Draco Slayer engine, 3 Pendulum Call for the Magician engine, and then 3 Instant Fusion. This got better, in my opinion, because you can't spam rank 4 as much without Plush Fire, and you do dump a lot of stuff into the graveyard between Pendulum Call and Twin Twister if you main it. So, like, it's not that unlikely that you're going to get a level 4 into the graveyard really early on. And you can even just dump with Second Donkey. And, like, this is another reason I really like the Armageddon Knight engine, is that it makes Instant Fusion live. So, yeah, Instant Fusion I think is really strong now because you're more likely to get stuff into the graveyard. And again, I still don't know how I feel about Soul Charge, but they kind of fulfill the same roles as Soul Charge, has the potential to be stronger. Yeah. And then 1 Rhoda because of the 3 Darks, 2 Armageddon Knight, 1 Hell Princess. Rhoda just helps you tutor one of them out. And the 1 trap is Treacherous Travel. And that's the main deck. For extra deck, for rank 4 is this Dweller, which is now with Monarch and Cosmo probably being more prevalent. Dweller is probably even more important now. And also without Plush Fire, like, I still don't know how I feel about this in the mirror. It's probably not that good, honestly, but yeah. 1 Castel, 1 Diamond Direwolf, 1 Evil Sworn Nightmare. This guy's honestly just even better with the Dark Engine. If I weren't playing the Dark Engine, I'd probably cut this for something else, just because the only Dark slots in the deck when you cut the Dark Engine is like the 1 Skulkerbat and the 2 Vector, which is really not enough to make this guy live. So I'd probably remove him for something else if I remove that engine. 1 King of the Pharaoh Lamps. This is only for searching Mass Chameleon because I don't run any other reptiles, but that's important enough to play him. 1 Magister, 1 Treacherous Rafflesia, 1 Felgrin because There's a bit more focus on the Draco Slayers now, so it's a lot easier to get 2 level 8s on the board. That's all the Xyz monsters. Synchros are 2 Ignister and 1 Stardust. I put the Stardust in because I found myself in a situation where I instant fused into Mass Chameleon. I was like, I would rather Synchro than Xyz, so that's where Stardust Dragon came in. Ideally, this would be Cyframe Lord Omega probably, but I don't have one of those, so I just went with the next best option, which I think is Stardust Dragon. So, yeah. And that's the Synchros. And then fusions are 2 Dinoster. I upped this to 2 because Dinoster is more important now to protect scales. And it also lets you use a Dinoster to summon Felgren and still be able to summon another Dinoster. And then 2 Northern for instant fusion. I guess I can go into the side deck. It's still kind of a work in progress. Like, this is still, like, really, really rough. I don't know where I'm going with this. 3 Droll and 3 Veiler. Like, Veiler, I don't really like hand traps in the main anymore, just because the main reason I really liked Veiler, and I guess I kind of went back to Max C, were that in the mirror, you really didn't want to get blown out by an unbreakable board, and Veiler Max C kind of helped that. This deck doesn't really make obscene boards anymore, with the exception of, like, the occasional, like, Felgrind Evil Swarm Nightmare, which I think I've pulled off once. So for the most part, I don't think Veiler is as important in the mirror. I don't think Maxi is needed at all anymore without the, like, absurd boards that would be made. But it's still important against Monarchs. I think it's still important against Atlantean because it stops Diva and Megalo. So it's like, for those matchups, I think it's still important to side, but I don't think I would main it. Draw and Lockbird would be for Monarch and Atlantean also, just to stop them from doing draw power or search power or all that stuff. So, yeah. 3 Gamma Seal to out monster floodgates that aren't named Vanity's Fiend. So I actually don't think I would side this in against Monarch because of Vanity's Fiend is the most, like, deadly floodgate, monster floodgate in that deck. 1 Raigeki, 3 Swords of Concealing Light. This is for Cosmo and Monarchs and just outing more monster floodgates, really. And then 2 Twin Twister. Like I said, if I were to decide to side Wavering Eyes, these 3 would go in the main. But yeah, it's a really, really rough draft side deck, and I don't know if this is how I would entirely approach it, but this was the idea I had just for the past day or so. And this was really similar to what I was running before the adjusted list, so yeah. And that's the entire deck list. Like I said, it's a preliminary prototype build. I just threw it together after the list dropped. And I was originally going to just do Odd Eyes Magician, and then I just decided to tinker around with a rank 4 centric, and it turned out to be a lot better than I thought it would, and I still think it's the best deck in the game. If not, it's still like top 3 or top 4. But yeah, like I said, I don't know when I'll actually get to use this in tournament because I don't know when school schedule will allow me to go to locals, and the states next weekend are using the advanced format from what I've heard. If that's not true, then obviously I will run this and hope nobody expects to see it coming. I would fully expect that by the time of ARG Richmond, people would see that this deck is still viable and end up still playing it. But if not, then maybe I'll have a surprise factor because nobody watches these videos. Yeah, so otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time, YouTube.